Oh, you didn't know? Well, you better call somebody. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Front Row Material proudly brings to you the hottest podcast tandem in the world, the real deal Ritt, the Rockstar Renegade, 6 degrees of Ritt and Renegade.
And if you're not down with that, I've got 5 words for you. Let's get ready to ramble! Damn. I just can't get enough of that.
Might I say the greatest intro of all time?
Oh, man.
That's a mighty high thing to aim for, but that is the greatest intro of all time. I'm going to stand by that.
And just that intro video, I was looking, I'm like, holy shit, I got goosebumps. You know?
And I would say a big shout out and thanks to the 6 Degrees of Ritt and Renegade fan for recording that for us and sending it in. That was awfully generous to do that.
Man. So, Jersey Devils in the house. What's going on, man? How you doing tonight? Making Rocco jealous out this bitch. So, man, we got a great topic tonight. Great topic. This topic, I kind of did you dirty.
It's okay. It's okay.
I called a beardo. We're closing out, and I'm throwing the topic out there, and then we go off the air. Jersey Devil was getting ready for the great 5 more minutes. He wanted overtime.
Hey, I would have thrown down for some OT.
No,
I mean,
that
one could have went into like quadruple overtime.
I know. But I'm going to try to squeeze this whole topic tonight into 60 minutes, and it's going to be hard.
Yep.
But
much like the butt on set, it's going to be hard.
Yes. Lots of scenarios of what ifs. This topic might require a run-in. And a run-in you will get. The topic for tonight, guys, is there's 2 moments in wrestling history. One is the infamous formation of the NWO, with Hulk Hogan being the 3rd man. The other is King of the Ring. Stone Cold cutting the Austin 316 promo and winning the King of the Ring. You can only have one. And the other never happened. Renegade, I know you've been chomping at the bit. The floor is yours.
So you can only take one. Only one can happen.
Only one can happen, and the other one never existed.
Happened. I would say, knowing what we know, you would have to take the Austin moment. Because in the end, they ended up winning the war anyway. Because I would think if you took Hogan and the Austin thing never happened. So the NWO, that stuff all goes down. You never get Austin 316. The problems within WCW still existed and still, I think, would have panned out the same exact way. So if you take the Hogan thing, the Austin thing never happens. WWE ultimately, I think, would lose the war because now you don't have the Austin McMahon thing happen. I don't think Austin or McMahon Triple H would have carried the same kind of weight. I think WCW ultimately wins the war, but folds in the end. So you might have a demolition of both companies. You know, WWE goes bankrupt, WCW eventually folds, maybe turns into something else, but less. I think they both go under. So I would have to say you have to take Austin.
Ooh, see, Austin, and you said about the Austin McMahon thing. Man, there is a huge domino effect. Because if Austin's moment never happens, then let's take a step back. Say the curtain call never happened. Triple H becomes the king of the ring like he was supposed to this year instead of the year after. Austin's moment never happens. Which means, do we ever get that Austin McMahon? Because another moment in history made the McMahon moment, which was the Brett screwed Brett. So you have two different moments that made the Austin moment. So if we don't have Austin's moment happen, that's two separate moments that possibly could never come forward, which puts all your focus on WCW. If Hogan's moment does happen and he is the third man, WCW continues the ratings war, which WWE never turns to the Attitude Era, which ultimately leads WCW to win and possibly make WWE go out of business. But Hogan's told Bischoff plenty of times before, you can't keep Vince down. So if Hogan's moment happens and Austin's moment doesn't, does Vince dig down and make another character as popular as the Austin character? And who would it be?
It's possible.
I understand, because I just said a whole bunch of shit. And you're trying to, I understand.
So to put somebody else in that place, right, to build up somebody else. The Rock, I don't think was ready at this point. Matter of fact, King of the Ring, Survivor Series, he might not have even have debuted yet. So now you don't have The Rock. So he's not there. He's not an option at this point. Triple H is.
I think you might have had early Rock. I think you might have had Rocky Maivia.
Okay, so yeah, not even near ready yet. He hasn't become what he was later to become. So Triple H was the next in line. You have, let's see, Bret Hart on the verge of leaving anyway. Still another year away from doing so. You have, I don't think you're going to give it to Shawn to run with again. You're going to have to rely on your already established guys, because who was ready? Who was ready to come up to that level? So outside of The Rock, you're still 2 years, 3 years away from The Rock being about a year, 2 years away from The Rock being prominent. So I don't think you had anybody else. Triple H would have been the big push, but I don't know who gets Austin's spot. I don't know who would be the next to come up. Maybe they push Farouk, because I feel like that's what they wanted to do initially.
Do they push Mick? Ooh,
that's a good, yeah. Oh yeah, if his lip never got busted open, he doesn't get to. Well, he probably still would have heard the promo. But
he might have heard the promo, but some people, if you hear something and they dwell on it, I feel like Austin promo was more of a, a quick thing. Like it came to him right then. More along the lines of dwelling on something and then you mess it up. But then again, back in, that was great because Vince wasn't in your ear telling you, this is what you're going to say. This is what you're going to, here's the script.
Yeah, he might have had interference with that. He might have been led. If he was backstage, might have been led in a different direction.
He might have had to lead a total. They might have actually told him, hey, this is the promo we want you to read. With coming back from the hospital, he didn't have time. It's, hey, Michael Hayes, give me the gist of what was said. And, it's this? Okay, let's go out there and talk about your John 3:16, Waston 3:16. That's great. So, now on the other hand, what happens? Like, what can WCW do if Hogan and the NWO didn't happen? What do they have to keep going? Because now you got Hall and Nash there. So what do you do with them?
The other option was Sting, correct? Sting was the backup?
Yeah, but the NWO isn't there at all now. So what are you doing with Hall and Nash in the company?
Well, my understanding was Hogan never joined them.
No, the moment never happened. So the NWO was never formed.
Well, it still would have been Hall and Nash as the outsiders.
Hall and Nash would still been there, yes. So would they have gotten just tag team runs? 2 separates?
It's possible, or they go with just, you remove somebody from history, but history repeats itself and somebody else just takes that place, right? Because that person's now not there. So let's say they do the same thing anyway. And Sting was the backup, so Sting goes in and plays it. Hogan retires. Sting takes Hogan's spot. Now Sting's the leader of the NWO. Then that brings a bigger question of what happens to the company after that, because Sting was the big hero on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
Hogan's done. Hogan was already on the kind of, I feel like, the downslide of Hulkamania, right?
Oh, yeah. The fans hated him. You know, the fans didn't want nothing to do with the red and yellow Hogan.
So he retires, walks away from the business. Maybe even goes like, lets the NWO take him out. But he walks away. So who now plays the hero for WCW? My immediate guess would have been possibly DDP, because I feel like DDP was pretty hot at this time. Fans were really behind him. If I remember right, there was a pretty big reaction when he teased a join to the NWO, and then
Diamond Cut, and that was a big moment there because Hall and Nash, good friends of DDP, they let DDP get the first little chink of armor, knocked away. When they let had Diamond Cut both of them, like that was epic. That like the crowd erupted during that moment.
So maybe Diamond Dallas Page becomes the Sting kind of, not the hiding in the rafters and stuff, but he becomes the hero for WCW and leads the charge that way. I don't know if it had the same impact as it had with Sting.
I just don't see Sting like leading, like being vocal like Hogan. I could possibly see more of a Savage, turning and heel and joining the NWO, which could have had the same effect because Savage was a Vince guy. He was a North guy. Yeah,
but Savage had been heel before, where this was a bigger deal when Hogan did it because Hogan was face like his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it would have had as big of an impact with Macho because he was heel in the past. This was the first heel run for Hogan, so it was man, that night is burned into my mind forever.
Yeah, Renegade, you can stick it.
But I just don't think anything outside of Hogan joining has the same impact, right? If Sting's the guy, and DDP's the leader of the WCW locker room, it would be cool for a little while, but I don't think it has the same impact, and may actually lose steam a lot faster. And if Macho takes over and Sting leads, I think it'll be cool for a while, but it won't have the impact as when Hogan turned.
Well, it could have been a different NWO. It could have been more of a Wolfpack type feel. You know, not only that, if Sting would have been the guy to turn instead of Hogan, okay, you might not have had as big of an NWO for the fact that you don't have all Hogan's cronies trying to get a piece of the pie. You know,
right?
Big Boss Man, Virgil,
Beefcake.
You know, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, the Disciple, Zodiac, whatever you want to call him at that time. You know, but if Sting would have led it, it would have been a little different. You know, Sting, it could have had a Wolfpack vibe, you know, and you might have got Luger in it to join, you know, like the Wolfpack did. Maybe Waltman. It could have had a different laid back feel, and instead of, you know, the edgier heel, you know, the dirty tactics. But
man, what if Shawn Michaels left WWE and became the leader of the NWO?
Well, when was Shawn's contract up around this time?
I do remember it wasn't long after Hall and Nash left, because he was toying around with the idea of going over there. So it had to have been possibly around that time. If not, maybe he was just going to hold out until his contract was up and then go over. But you know, all right. Let's say this time in '96, you know, they leave. His contract is up shortly after. Hogan says, "Not doing it. You know, I'm going to be done." You know, he wants to go out, still a babyface, and end his career that way. But then Shawn Michaels says, "I'm done with Bret Hart. I'm done with all this stuff. I'll go over there with my friends, and I'll lead the NWO." You know, what kind of an impact might that have had?
You know, I'm here thinking about, you know, what you're saying, and all of a sudden, something just popped in my head. It's kind of crazy about these topics. Okay. Technically, we can't choose one without the other. Because if you think about it here with me, if we sit and say the NWO never happens at all, okay, that means technically the curtain call never happened, which means Hall and Nash never left, which means Triple H would have won King of the Ring, which means we never got the Stone Cold promo. So technically, we need the NWO to be formed to have that Austin promo in a roundabout way. You know, Jersey Devil, let's see what he's got. With Austin, he gets the beat in the King of the Ring or doesn't make it to the semis. Semis matches were Austin and Mero and Jake and Vader. You're not going to push Mero to the main event. Jake had his demons. King Vader is shot at Triple H willing to work with him. If Austin isn't even in the King of the Ring, who takes his spot in the tournament?
Wow.
Ooh.
That's heavy.
So let's sit there and break this down. So say we're picking the NWO as the event that happens. Now, it's supposed to have been Austin and Mero, Jake and Vader. So who does go in Austin's spot at this time? Who were some top names at this time? Goldust?
That's possible.
You know, and Ahmed Johnson?
Maybe. Let's see, you had Sid. Sid was still there, right?
Sid was still here.
Yeah, you could put Sid in there.
You know, I don't think they're going to push Mero.
King Sid would have been interesting.
So out of these three, not knowing who the wild card would be to replace him, you would almost have to put Vader as the king.
Right. Let's say whoever they replace Austin with doesn't get the push regardless. So it doesn't really matter who it is. Yeah, I would probably say Vader wins. But again, what Triple H was supposed to win this, right?
Yes.
So
and Sean's champ at the time.
ooh. Yeah. Sean had already, I think, worked Vader, and that didn't go well.
Yeah,
Triple H would have worked Vader. I think. I don't think he would have had an issue.
No, because they're both Harley Race guys. You know.
Well, and Triple H doesn't have the attitude that Sean had. You know, Sean was impatient, angry, and took it out on Vader. I think he was impatient with him.
And that was during Sean's title run, wasn't it? Babyface.
Yes.
You know, that's when he worked all those, you know, unorthodox matches of Vader, Mankind. You know, do we sit there and have Mankind go in this King of the Ring?
You could. Again, I think with the thought in mind that whoever you're putting in that spot doesn't go anyway.
Was this the King of the Ring where it was Taker and Mankind and Hell in a Cell? 95? 96? 95?
Why in my mind? It was either 96 or 97.
Oh, so this isn't the same.
I don't think so.
So
they may have been in the middle of their feud, like the Boiler Room Brawls and things like that. But I don't think that had happened yet.
Yeah. So, man, this is just it's crazy.
I love these what ifs. I play this one all the time. I always say, like, what if? Let's say take like Tom Brady's career. Like, what if the Tuck rule stayed a fumble, right? He doesn't go to that Super Bowl. The Raiders go. What if McNabb doesn't half-ass it, puke on the field, goes down and scores and wins? What if the Seahawks run it on the goal line? What if the Falcons don't blow their 28-3 lead? We're talking Tom Brady, yeah, still being in a lot of Super Bowls, but not winning most of them. So no one's calling him the greatest of all time. I already don't. But you don't, you know, it's like if you could change just that one thing, the amount of impact it would have on somebody's career would be.
Oh, what happens if Dan Marino had a running game?
Yes.
Well, what happens
if
Detroit would have traded Barry Sanders, for instance, to Barry Sanders. This is the one that I've always used to get arguments with people. Everybody's like, well, if Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith switched front lines, Barry Sanders would have been twice the running back that Emmitt was. I don't think he would have been, because Barry Sanders made his own holes, you know, his cutbacks. Emmitt Smith didn't have to worry about that because he had that Dallas Cowboy front line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
that should have just been called the Detroit Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
There's no lies.
And it's sad that the city of Detroit took not one, but two great players' careers because they would not trade them. Barry Sanders and my man Megatron, Calvin Johnson. You know, Boog sits there and says, what if Bledsoe never gets hurt? That's great. That's great right there. You know,
Yeah. You don't get, with Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick, so Bledsoe's the guy. He doesn't get hurt. He stays. Probably starts for another few years unless he completely tanks. Which, with being with Belichick, I think Bledsoe then becomes the Tom Brady. Tom Brady disappears into nothingness. So which I would have loved, but we have what we have. I like this too. There can be only one, like the Highlander series of Highlander scenarios. There can be only one.
yeah. Hey, I sit there and love to rub this into those Yankee fans. What happens if that stolen base never happened in Game 4 of the ALCS in 2004?
What if the Yankees had to play by the same advantages of every other team, as far as like acquiring players and big money contracts and things like that?
My man David Roberts, who is now the manager for the Los Angeles Dodgers. If he never stole that base, that was epic.
Yeah, lots of crazy stuff. Michael Jordan doesn't make that game-winning shot in the 80. Oh crap, we talked about this
88, 89,
something like that. On because I think it was the Cat 89.
89.
Yeah, this is that shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doubt starts to creep in. People might criticize his game a little more. He doesn't have that confidence. It's Michael Jordan. I think he would have been fine regardless. But the impact that had.
Michael Jordan, when he played that playoff, it was a playoff game or the championship game with the flu.
I think it was a playoff game.
And he dropped
technically with food poisoning, but
what if the Bulls never drafted Scottie Pippen?
If I'm not mistaken, didn't they trade in the draft for Scottie Pippen?
Yeah. Boog. Yeah. Well, trade.
Yes. So that doesn't happen. I think Michael would still be the stud on that team regardless.
What happens if Jordan was drafted number 1 overall?
Who was that team? I never remember.
The Sonics.
Sonics. Oh man.
Because them, Portland.
Yeah, then Chicago.
And then Chicago. Portland drafted Clyde Drexler.
I mean, you could have. All right, if he goes there, they drafted the same. I think they played the same position. So now Portland probably becomes Chicago and will win multiple titles.
But do you think it? Do you think so?
Jordan's a better player than Drexler, and Drexler did.
Oh, wait. Portland drafted Sam Bowie.
Oh. Okay.
But they don't have Phil. Phil put that team together, that triangle offense.
But think if the Sonics get Jordan, they don't end up with Kemp and
Gary Payton.
So, that changes because, Jordan would have them in a different draft position where they don't get to pick those guys.
You want to talk basketball? What about, and everybody sit there and complained about this, the New York Knicks won the draft lottery and they drafted Patrick Ewing. And everybody said there is no way they should have won that draft lottery. And they did.
Yeah, it would have had a huge impact on them had they not.
Heck, what happens if David Robinson never gets hurt for the Spurs? For them to go 6 or 7 wins, for them to draft Tim Duncan to win how many more championships?
So many questions. It's crazy to think how the world itself would be so much different had some of these things just gone the other way.
Oh, Jersey Devil, you're a man of my own heart here. I am a huge Shaq fan. Huge. I was so disappointed when they got swept against the Houston Rockets because Houston had Shaq's kryptonite, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. There is nothing that Shaq could do to guard Hakeem. It was ridiculous. But Shaq had an amazing team around him that year. Penny, Horace Grant, Dennis Scott, Nick Anderson, Scott Skiles. It was ridiculous.
Just couldn't put it together.
No.
Just couldn't get over that because then by the time I think they do, Jordan comes back.
The only reason they say Orlando got to go to the finals against the Rockets was because Jordan was not there.
Right. Think about that if Jordan wins 8 straight championships.
Well,
and then the last dance doesn't happen. The owner has a different change of heart. He's like, no, listen, hey, we got to keep this team together for another at least 2 seasons. Right? He's the possibility to win 10 straight.
Yeah, well, what happens if Jordan is successful at baseball and never goes back?
Oh, wow. I don't see. He probably could have been. He didn't stay there long enough, I think, to really get in the groove of it because he played baseball in high school, and might have been decent at that then. But I think whatever he would have set his mind to, he would have been great at. He only played for season and a half or something like that.
And I think he made it to Double-A at the most.
Yeah. So had he stuck it out and said, "I'm done with basketball. I'm gonna stay in baseball," I think in time he would have, the work ethic he has, he would have made it work, and he would have probably made it to the majors maybe within 5 seasons of playing.
Look, Jersey Devils brings up Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow's another one. Like, it's crazy.
Guy wins you a walk-off playoff game, and then you throw him in the dumpster.
Man, it's.
But they didn't take their time with him, right? He needed a certain type of offense, and I don't think the team was willing to. Of course, you have Josh McDaniels is your head coach, sleazy worm, but he wants to do what Belichick does. You're not going to do that with a Tim Tebow. I think you could, short little passes and a run game and defense. You could do that with Tebow. But Tebow wants to run.
I think Tim Tebow would have been great down in Miami when they were doing that Wildcat offense.
I don't know why they didn't take a chance and get him. He goes to the Jets, right? That was after the Broncos.
Yeah.
And then to the Patriots for not even a full season.
I think it was a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Which that was never going to work out. I don't know why they did that.
I think they did it just for the buzz.
Possibly. But one, he was never going to play. So he's a guy you keep on your bench who's just going to get a lot of people are going to be asking about him all the time, and he's not even playing. So yeah, Miami. Miami or Jacksonville. Don't know why they never took a chance on him.
Here we go. What if the Chiefs never took out Tom Brady the first game of the season? Does New England win that championship?
Well, they finished that season 11-5. Didn't even make the playoffs because Miami had the same record and had the tiebreaker. So New England gets knocked out of the playoffs, which people bring up to me all the time. Well, they didn't make the playoffs that year. So because I use that season as to why I don't think Brady is the greatest quarterback ever. They had Matt Castle. They still go 11-5.
A former Chief.
This would be right before that. Chiefs got him the next season, but he takes them 11-5. That's good enough, honestly, to make the playoffs. You would think. Unfortunately, the same team in their division had the same record.
Was this the year that they started the Wildcat and New England had no idea how to do it?
I think it was. They nobody knew how to stop that season, and now you don't see it anymore. Very, very rarely does somebody pull that out. But yeah, I use that season all the time. Like, look, all right, so Peyton Manning misses an entire year, and look what happens. I think they win 2 games. Curtis Painter, I think, was the quarterback. They win 2 games. Tom Brady misses the entire season outside of that Chiefs game, and they go 11-5. So tell me he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, I got plenty for that.
To me, it was always. I hate to sit there and say it was Belichick, but I think it was Belichick. He knew how to get the best out of everybody he had.
Well, yeah, because he had the tapes of all the other teams to tell him how to do it. I mean, was it Malcolm Butler had said after the Seahawks game, we knew exactly what call they were going to do. Now, you could say, based on scheme and how we prepared for them, you would have known they were going to go for a screen.
Never in a million years would, if I was a head coach at the 1-yard line, I'm thinking that they're passing. Never. You have Marshawn Lynch. You're running the ball. You are running the ball right up the middle.
Well, the argument could say that that's what they're going to expect, so let's hit them with the pass. But Malcolm Butler jumped on that route like he knew exactly where the ball was going, who the ball was going to. Like, listen, I can't talk Patriots and not bring up all the cheating scandals, right? And hey, I hear naysayers. Well, everybody was.
Hey, yeah. I'm going to sit there and say, there was one cheating scandal I loved. Give me more Deflategate, because if they didn't deflate those footballs that season, David Tyree never would have caught that on his helmet. If you give a man a perfectly legal football, he is never going to be able to push it into his helmet and come down with it.
Well, you have to look too at well, first of all, that each team uses different footballs. So had that been an interception, I would agree with you. But the fact that that would have been a Giants football.
They couldn't handle the Giants, so they deflated them all. not once, but twice. And you were there for the one.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
When I almost lost my TV.
This is 2 of my favorite Super Bowls of all time, that not including my team that was in it. There was a stat I looked up that said New England, as far as fumbles went, right? So they had the fewest fumbles of any team, and the next closest team was like 20-some fumbles away, and I think it was Baltimore, right? So it wasn't even close. So you have to think, if they were deflating the footballs the whole time, maybe that's why Tom Brady mostly only throws like 5-yard passes, right? Because you're not going to be chucking a deflated football down the field all the time. It changes your throwing and stuff.
Jersey Devil wants to bring up Eli doesn't demand a trade, and the Giants kept Drew Brees. It was the Giants kept Phillip Rivers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we would have had Phillip Rivers, and the Chargers would have kept Eli. Who knows? Phillip Rivers isn't as agile as Eli to get out of that sack.
And they're both very prone to throwing interceptions too. So it might have worked out exactly the same, except Phillip Rivers maybe walks away with 2 Super Bowls, and Eli does not.
Yeah. Well, going back to wrestling a little bit, What happens if WCW never went under and we didn't get TNA Impact? You know, that means
I honestly don't think that would matter much.
But you never would have gotten an AJ Styles,
Right.
a Samoa Joe.
They didn't originate there, right? Did they?
Yeah,
he was probably working indies.
Well, AJ was in WCW at the end, but they never would have got the spotlight,
right,
to be able to shine.
Right, because he would have had to go somewhere else to get that. Somewhere in the indies, somewhere else to get noticed. Because I don't think WWE would have noticed him enough to pick him up. So, yeah, you would miss out on a few guys, AJ especially. Maybe he never gets noticed, but somebody would have taken notice of him.
You know, AJ, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, low key. Now, don't get me wrong, Ring of Honor was starting up, so you know they could have ended up there.
Well, that's why I like if with WWE possibly during the alliance keeping WCW, you know, and making it two different WWE brands. You keep WCW and you keep WWE, and you make them different nights. You know, because you're obviously not going to compete against yourself. But that would have been great. That's what I wanted them to do. I wanted them to keep WCW afloat. You could have kept, you know, Sting probably would have stayed because he would have ran WCW, and you know maybe the NWO guys stay stay over there. Now, granted, you got to cut that NWO down by that point dramatically.
Oh, but by that time it was Brett leading the NWO and you know Hogan and everything. Out right here. What if Sinclair Broadcasting never bought Ring of Honor? Who becomes the big indie promotion of the 2000 to 2010s? I don't know.
Could New Japan maybe have gotten a television deal here?
That they could have. It's just hard for them to get because of the time differential. Unless you're pre-taping everything.
You would almost have to, I think.
But I don't know who becomes the third. You know, there really wasn't too many other ones available.
How big is AAA Mexico?
They're huge down there.
Right. So do you think they try and expand? They see an opening and try to branch out? Or, to me, it feels like they're very comfortable where they are. That's the feeling I get.
Yeah. But
I think they like to keep their thing close to the vest and keep it where it is. But yeah, somebody probably comes up with one. I look at AEW. Maybe a former wrestler decides, hey, I'm going to start my own thing. Surely Bret Hart could have.
Well, that's what Jeff and his father did.
Right.
You know, they started with TNA.
So if it isn't that, maybe they just do what was the other, the Global Force Wrestling or something like that?
Yeah.
Maybe they just come up with a new thing and do their own thing anyway.
Here's a huge one. What if Paul Heyman knew how to balance a checkbook, and ECW never went out of business? Do they get on a national televised program? Because towards the end, Heyman was saying that he was trying to switch things over to more of a pure wrestling type thing, kind of like a UFC style, because he had his eyes on a CM Punk, you know, an AJ Styles, a low key, you know, all the guys that Ring of Honor picked up really early, Homicide, he had his eyes, you know, looking at. So could ECW have been able to withstand, you know, the test of time with a checkbook behind them?
Well, what do you do with all the talent then? If you're going to go to more like a UFC style shoot wrestling, where do you just offload those guys to, or basically sell their contracts to?
Well, honestly,
other...
for the longest time, that's what Paul was doing. He was just using talent and then sending them up to WWE, using talent, and then all of a sudden they go to WCW. Jersey Devil brings up one right now, which I think was the demise of WWE.
Yes.
What if WWE never went public?
It keeps them tame now. So even if they wanted to, they can't go back to anything close to the Attitude Era. They can't even sniff it. They tried to here and there.
And still back in the Attitude Era, I wouldn't want to sniff half of it anyways.
Yeah. I think chap lips would be the least of your problems, but yeah. So that it keeps them tame, and it ruined it because now it's you basically have to keep it PG. You have to keep it watered down, and there's no expectation that it's going to build from where it is. It's going to stay this way forever, I think now.
Yeah, if you think what the closest it might have been when Punk and Nexus, but that really wasn't that edgy. There was more of a reality based there for a little bit, but I don't really see much anything else going on with it. Like, well, as soon as they sit there and went public, they took the ball out of their court. And now
the closest they get usually is when The Rock comes back. They let The Rock say a few things here and there that are a little outside the lines, but for the most part, they stay within that PG area, and it's corny.
Okay. Here's one I'm gonna throw out for you. What if Austin never took that pile driver from Owen?
Ugh.
How much longer could his career have gone? How much bigger could Austin have gone? Well,
bigger might be a stretch. He may have run into a stale type thing. I feel like he did a lot of damage to his reputation with the Alliance. And he even admits turning heel was the worst decision he made when he turned heel with Vince.
But that really didn't last that long, did it?
I don't think so. But then I thought he got really, really corny with the Alliance.
I was gonna say, which did you, in your opinion, was worse for Austin?
The Alliance.
The Alliance,
or
his heel run with Vince?
I would say the Alliance, because he was a lot more cowardly, very unlike Steve Austin, very unlike Stone Cold.
He was the wind beneath our wings.
Yeah, singing songs and putting little cowboy hats on Kurt Angle, and empty threats and hide behind the Alliance and things like that. It was, I'm very over the cowardly heel thing. Every single time now somebody turns heel, it's the hide behind other people. Somebody challenges you, oh no, not tonight. You're gonna have to wait until the paper. It's the cowardly stuff. They run and hide all the time. Be original. Do something different, or do a throwback to something that hasn't been done for a long time. These cowardly heel things it's getting old.
Yeah, like let's think of another one. If Austin has a bigger, longer run, does he never unleash the plague that is the what chance?
That wouldn't be a bad thing.
It was only about $2.3 million of his merchandise sales.
It was huge for him while he was there, right? It was. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed when he did it. I do not enjoy the lasting effect of it. It affects every promo now ever since. And they're not still selling what shirts, so they're not making money off of it. I still remember this one. I swear this woman was like the female embodiment of Andre the Giant outside of one of the arenas one night. What? It's like Big Show, Stone Cold combined. It was horrific, but I mean, I could have done without it. Like I said, I enjoyed it while he was doing it because his promos were funny. But yeah, outside of that, it's kind of annoying.
Here we go. What happens if Bret does the right thing and drops the title to Shawn? No screw job. We have no Mr. McMahon.
No Mr. McMahon.
Who becomes Austin's go-to heel now?
Triple H.
But do you think that's gonna get him over? Triple H ain't the boss, like Vince. You know, it's
no. I'll tell you what. I'll one up you on this one. Shawn never hurts his back. Austin still gets the push. Where does McMahon fall into this? So Shawn, I think, would become his.
Oh, I love this. Oh, what if Jannetty? Well, what if Vince sit there and says that Jannetty's the guy that's getting the push, and he turns heel and throws Shawn into the glass?
He's done within a year.
You think?
I don't think he was as talented.
He might not have been as talented, but at least he didn't have a booger at his nose at WrestleMania.
But still, yeah, because that really hurt him.
Did you heard that story, right?
No.
Mikey said about it when he wrestled. I think it was Tito Santana at WrestleMania. Tito sit there and looked at him, and Shawn had a booger at his nose.
It happens.
The El Matador, Tito Santana, the flying burrito. Oh, I used to love Bobby the Braid or Jesse the Body. Used to sit there and be like, "Oh, it's that flying burrito."
Well, I'll tell you, it would have been interesting to see what Marty was as a heel because I don't think he ever was one. He after he was released, and I think even when they brought him back, he then became a nostalgia act already as a rocker, and he never got an opportunity. So it would have been interesting to see what he could have done as a heel. And Shawn as a babyface, but I feel like Shawn needed that more than Marty did to grow. I don't think Marty had the same charisma or attitude that Shawn had. I don't think he could have been a heel, or at least not a great one. But we'll never know.
What about if Andre never tells Hogan to go for the body slam?
We're not sitting here today having this conversation.
No, I don't think Hogan. Andre's the one that said pass the torch to Hogan. And what's Vince going to do? Fire Andre? That was one of his star attractions back then.
Hogan, I think, was the only person you could do that for then. One, I don't know how strong Macho Man was, but could he have body slammed Andre?
No.
And so Hogan was the only one. I think that you could have done that for. It was just the right people at the right time, and it's funny sometimes how life just puts those pieces together at the right moment.
And this is going to be one of the last ones I bring up. What happens if Shane Douglas never gives the speech and throws down the NWA World Title and proclaims ECW? Like that, if he never does that and it sticks with NWA, we never get Extreme. We never get hardcore like Paul wants. Do we ever get the Attitude Era because of it?
See, I don't know how much ECW had an effect on what became of the Attitude Era. It might have influenced them to a degree. As a matter of fact, a lot of people claim that they copied some of the stuff that they did.
So, wait, a degree or 6 degrees?
Oh, 6 degrees. But so yeah, I think they did have some kind of influence there. But I ultimately think that the competition with WCW is what pushed them to get more aggressive. I don't even know if there is an ECW standing at it. You know, if they don't change and he doesn't do that, you might have been looking at a company that fell apart fast. Because even with the success ECW had and the underground kind of cult following they had, they were still barely afloat. So you'd probably never even want to heard of them much.
Yeah. So, well, another great episode. We're going to be wrapping things up here soon. But, guys, get your merchandise. Head on over to brainbustertees.com/other/front row material. Check out our merchandise. You got your 6 degrees of Ritt and Renegade. You've got your Cult of Beardo. You've got your FRM pod. And, of course, you got your Future Stars Now merchandise. Get them while they're hot. Get them while they're new. When you get them, send pictures to us on Twitter of you wearing your merchandise. You know, we'd love to sit there and hear from you guys. Also, head on over to YouTube. Search for Front Row Material. Click the follow button. Go through all of our interviews. We've got the Sabu interview. We've got the Pope, Ken Shamrock. You know, the list goes on and on. You can see all 4 of our products over there on YouTube. Hey, and then when you want to watch us live like you are right now, head over to twitch.tv/FRM pod. Smash that follow button. Renegade, any final thoughts tonight?
This is a topic that we could go on forever, baby. Anyone out there watching Home Alone this time of year? So, this is, I love what ifs because, like I said, the world around you changes. Butterfly effect. You know, you go back and manipulate one thing, the rest of the world is different. So, I love this kind of stuff. You could talk about it for forever. So this beard would be a lot whiter by the time this conversation would be over.
Well, guys, it's been great. Check us out tomorrow night on FRM Pod. We have a very good professional wrestler on. Thursday night, we've got Cult of Beardo, 8 o'clock, where we will be discussing the career of Crush. Then on Friday, we got Future Stars Now. We've got a double shot. We've got our very first guest, Marie Shadows, a former WWE employee, and also a good friend over called Tornado Tag Podcast. They're also going to be with us on Friday. So, guys, have a good time. See you next week. He is Renegade. I am the Ritt. And this is 6 Degrees of Ritt and Renegade. Take care.